Okay, hello everybody. My name is Darren and welcome to this question and answers video about motor tics, vocal tics, and Tourette's. So on the other side of the screen, there should be a parent or parents that are curious to know a little bit more about this condition. My name is Darren and I lived with a ticking, moving body for 20 years of my life, and I found a way out of it. And now my work is helping others heal this condition too, in a natural, holistic, non-invasive way. A way which we can all do at home by watching some videos and doing some exercises and tools and finding a way to teach the body to come back into equilibrium, balance, health, and healing again. So that's the work that I do. In this video, I'm going to answer your burning questions. So there are maybe 10 or so questions, 12 or so questions here I'm going to run through, and I'm just going to share with you my answers from my own personal experience and from working with many families and adults with tics now for over 6 years. And just I'm going to share with you, candidly and quite free-flowingly, some answers for the seeking one in you that are trying to figure out what's going on so you can possibly help your child. So I want to make sure you are in the right place to begin. So we're going to answer the question, what is a tic? And it might be that this is quite obvious. For some of you, it will be. For others, it might not be, because you're still early on in the stage of trying to figure out, is this a tic or not? But ultimately, tics are usually unconscious movements that are happening through the body. And they're usually kind of in the background. They're usually associated with some uncomfortableness or anxiety. But usually they start in different parts of the body. Maybe the eyes, like eye squinting is a popular one. Or rolling the eyes and needing to sense, like to do a sensation, It's like the little one needs to experience a sensation to feel connected to their body. In a world where we're also overstimulated, this kind of makes sense, right? Nose ones, right? Mouth, jaw, stuff like this. Like, quite violently sometimes moving their neck back, sometimes just like rolling and feeling senses here. It's quite a popular one. Like wrists and things also, like moving the wrist, needs to move the wrist. Stomach tics or movements, or breathing like this. So these are examples of different tics. And this is motor tics. Vocal tics are also common. And so it might be there's squealing sounds or swallowing sounds, or maybe even quite aggressive, violent or swear words can come out of some children too. And we would describe that as more on the Tourette side of things. So Tourette's is usually diagnosed when a child has both vocal tics and motor tics. Quite complex movements and sounds for an extended period of time. You might get the diagnoses of Tourette's. But ultimately, whether we call it a vocal tic or a motor tic or Tourette's, it's all coming from the same underlying urge. Okay, there's an urge that's happening inside of them that feels like it needs to be experienced, scratched, itched. Something has to be done with it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So these are tics. This is a ticking body. And don't get too caught up on the name as well. Ultimately, it's just the body needing to do what it needs to do. And it's found itself in some sort of loop. And this kind of loop is supportive for that body to move something. But it doesn't have to be that that's the only way that the body moves that thing. I'm going to leave that one a little bit more open right now. And we'll talk more about the energetics of it later on in this video. So what triggers creates tics? Why did the tics start? What's making tics happen, right? Why are they here? Why is my child going through this? So there is not one answer to this question, unfortunately, but I will speak some words into why. In some sense, their little body has become somewhere a little bit scared or frightened, unconsciously. I'm not saying they are aware of it in their mind, but somewhere the body's got a little bit scared, right? And another way of saying scared is like there were some feelings that happened that didn't want to be felt. There were some feelings that happened that didn't want to be felt. And so another way of describing this is to say that unprocessed feelings that happen might cause stuckness or blockages inside of the body. You know, when you're older, we call this trauma. But for kids, it hasn't really been around for a long enough time for us to really call it trauma. But unprocessed emotions that aren't dealt with or felt, or we've created enough space for them to be felt, can create tightness or blockages in the energy currents of the body between the nervous system and the brain. Okay? And so if there isn't enough space, or this child hasn't learned to process and to move emotions well enough, then sometimes these blockages can create the urges that create the tics. And these energy blockers can create the urges that create the tics. Another way of describing why tics happen is to say that we live in a world that's very disembodied and disconnected, with a lot of distractions, a lot of disconnection from the body, a lot of obsession with screens. And so we're also learning to some extent to reconnect with our body again. So a lot of the stuff that I teach, somatic awareness, embodiment, learning to bring our attention down to matter again, as opposed to in the incessant thoughts of the mind. Another way of describing why tics happen, right? And I really wish that I could share with you in a succinct sentence the answer to this question. But as you know, if you've been doing research, there isn't a succinct answer. And I committed decades of my life to this, and I still don't have a succinct answer. But another way of describing this as well is to say that the connection between the brain and the nervous system isn't as strong as it is with people that don't have tics. Or we could say the circuitry, this is what the latest neuroimaging is telling us, the circuitry that connects the oldest parts of the motor cortex to like prefrontal cortex and like everyday stuff, thinking and so, it's not as strong. We don't have kind of motorways, big long motorway circuitry that have been built there. And so it's like the energy of the body has to go through all these kind of side streets. And you know what happens when too much traffic goes through side streets? Well, there's pileups, there's blockages, there's slowdowns, right? And to me, that's kind of an example of what I'm trying to share a tic is. It's like energy, stuff's getting stuck. Stuff's getting stuck. Emotion, energy's getting stuck. And we want to find ways to create space so the urges don't even happen in the first place. And that's what the NTM family method is all about. So what does it feel like to have a tic? What does it feel like to have a tic? Oh. So you've already heard me describe like there's a stuckness. But inside the body, the feeling is like a build-up behind a dam that needs to break. Build up, build up, build up, build up. It's getting tighter, it's getting thicker, it's getting more fuller. Build up, build up, build up. Right. When we slow down time, that's what's going on inside. And imagine living like that thousands and thousands of times a day for years and years of your life, right? Like life passes by because you're so distracted with what's going on inside you all the time. So urges, so it's kind of like urge, but now most kids aren't really necessarily aware of the urge, they just do the ticking. Okay, so the ticking is just happening. But with a little presence, it is possible to notice the urge. A little bit of guidance and practice, it is possible to notice the urges, right? And then be with the sensations of the urge for a greater extended period. That's why things like breath work is so good, because we're learning to stay present with the body. Like the breath is the doorway to the body. If we can stay with the breath and the body, then nothing else matters. Everything else gets to dissolve. So it's not that the tics themselves or the urges themselves are painful. However, some tics get so aggressive or violent that it can be quite painful to the body. Or if a kid's been doing it for months and months and months, then yeah, like the physical body itself is going to have ramifications on it, right? There's going to be tension, there's going to be tightness, there's going to be aching, like that exists too, right? So that is a knock-on effect of leaving it undealt with for an extended period of time. Which leads me on to the next question: Will they grow out of it? And in all honesty, a lot of kids do grow out of it if they haven't had it for very long. A ticking body, they can look at they can. Their body can, their mind can, their soul can just allow it to wash away, and it might not continue on into their adulthood. And that's why a lot of doctors, I think, say just wait and see. But at the same time, given our current epidemic in the world of disconnection and obsession with our screens and poor mental health and lots of distraction and not great food, especially in the West, it's easy to not be well, and it's more important than ever to look after our mental and emotional well-being. No? And so what can we do, you know? Where, like, is there a cure for it? And officially the doctors say there isn't a cure for it. There's no official cure. No. But what's the difference between cure and healing? Do you know the difference? Like, when I think of the word cure, I think of, well, quick fix solutions that can be solved with a pill or an injection, right? Cure. You know, that kind of fixing for tics or Tourette's doesn't exist. But can this condition be healed? Absolutely it can. I'm living proof of that, and so have many, many, many parents. Thousands of parents have been through my programs now. Thousands of adults have been through my programs now over the last 6 years, with remarkable effects and changes and transformations again and again and again. The ticking body can be healed. Of course it can. If we didn't have it and now we have it, of course we can get back to the place where we don't have it again, right? Babies aren't brought into the world with a ticking body. It's something they've picked up along their way in their life. Okay, so it can be healed, but a lot of the messaging in our medical industry is that, well, I just wait and see, there's not really much we can do. Or we can just like feed them pharmaceutical medicines, which will kind of numb them to life and affect every other aspect of their life too. And even that, the side effects for those types of medicines are twitches. So the hilarity of that approach to solution still bewilders me. So no official cure, but like anything, things can be healed. Anything can be healed. Far greater miracles have occurred on this planet, right, than a body that's stopped moving, that's learned to stop moving. I want you to really get that last sentence. Far greater miracles have happened on this planet and in our history and even are happening today than helping a child stop their body moving by itself, right? Even though it might be quite distressful to watch and difficult to see, and it might be that you don't have the answers, you don't know what to do now or next, right? It can still be fixed, solved, healed. So the next question then is, well, when should I intervene? When is the right time, the best time, a good time to intervene? No? Because at the beginning, there's not really, at the beginning, it's like, okay, well, should I say something? Should I not say something? How should I relate to it? I mean, it's kind of distracting us, but, maybe that's my problem, not their problem, But I think it's hurting them, but they don't seem to be talking about it, right? So there's this kind of like yes, no, should I, shouldn't I, trust, not trusting, action, not action, space. Some of the questions you want to be asking at this stage is, are they in pain, right? Are they experiencing pain? Not, are they experiencing pain because of this? Just that a body moving by itself isn't a big issue, right? Just a little body moving by itself for like a couple of months, maybe not a big issue or a big problem, right? Maybe it'll go away and it's no issue. Right? But if you're noticing like a movement towards the tic getting worse, getting more severe, maybe that's an action sign. Maybe you notice it coming and going and coming and going, which is pretty normal too. They call that waxing and waning, because we are all going through life at different levels of severity of stress, even kids. But isn't it crazy? We live in a world where kids are stressed. We should be so far away from a world where kids are stressed. And yet we are all unconsciously creating that stress in our lives, in our jobs, in the world around us. Another curiosity you can have at this point of whether you should intervene or not is like, have they kind of talked about it yet? Are they talking about it? Are they mentioning it? Because just because they're talking about it doesn't mean necessarily you want to jump straight in and go, let's fix it, right? Because, isn't it nice when people just listen, right? Like at the beginning, it's nice to just listen. Like a child opening up and talking about something like this can be quite a sensitive and difficult thing to some children to do. They wouldn't necessarily, or they don't necessarily have the language to talk about what's going on inside their body, right? Nobody's taught them the language of what's going on inside their body because our whole schooling system is focused on the external world, not sensations, feelings, emotions, like the soft skills. And so your role in a way is learning to teach them the subtle stuff, the soft skills, so they even have a framework of language to go about expressing what they're noticing inside of them. So even if they haven't talked about it yet, but that it looks like it is hurting them and it's affecting them in some way, whether it's confidence in school or other people's looks, then finding a way to open up dialogue or conversation with them feels like the next best approach. But again, that's a very sensitive thing to do. How can you bring about awareness to something in them if they haven't yet, or maybe aren't yet fully aware of it themselves? And so the approach there has to be very subtle and soft. The approach, if at all, needs to be very gentle. It needs to come from curiosity, not from a place of fixing. Okay, so if it comes from a place of they're doing something wrong or bad, then they will feel that and they may close up. And so your role as a parent is to learn at this moment to get really, really good at how do I be curious without projecting my worry or fear onto them? How do I be curious about what they're experiencing and going through without trying to run ahead to changing them, right? All parents, quite a lot of parents, want to bring up their little mini me in the perfect way possible, right? It's really normal and natural in our world. But in this situation, what you have an opportunity of doing is learning to be curious about what's going on for them without expectation or outcome, but whilst creating an openness in your words and your energy and your emotions so that they feel safe to talk about something they don't really know how to talk about. Right? And this space here is itself the tact, the art, right? Is a very beautiful thing to deepen into and get better at to support overall communication, not just with your child, but with everybody in the world. Right? Learning to listen and be present at a whole nother level. This is one of the biggest challenges most parents face after having all these conversations for years now. It's like, well, I don't know how to talk to my kid about it. How do I? Because the kids it's a very sensitive, deep thing that's going on, right? Very sensitive and deep thing happening. And it's easy for a child to somewhat have their ego or their self-worth or self-value attached to this thing. And so if you point out this thing, maybe we're going to hurt our kid, So I totally get it. And yet at the same time, there are ways of bringing light to things very gently. And that's your opportunity as a parent for growth. How can I be curious? How can I learn? How can I be more patient to discover about their experience? And once your child has become a little bit more, let's say, more aware and is a bit more open, talking about it or mentioning it or pointing to it or at least acknowledging what's going on, then, all right, and they're there, then there's this gentle opportunity to start introducing the idea of like, do you want to keep it? Do you not want to keep it? Do you want to stop it? Do you not want to stop it? Would you like the urges not to be there? Or are you okay with the urges being there? Like, how can you now start introducing the idea that it's possible to live without the urges? Right? Not because the urges and the tics are bad, but because they are learning to lead from, oh, it is possible to not have them. Oh, yeah, I would like to not have them. And from there, then you have an opportunity of then guiding them into some support and to whatever support feels right for you and your family. My program is called the MTM Family Method, and the MTM Family Method is a series of embodiment practices, primitive reflex integration, somatic awareness, activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is all about strengthening our connection to the relaxed part of who we are and improving the relationship between the motor cortex and the rest of the brain function and the nervous system, so that the urges just dissolve away because we've strengthened certain parts of the motor cortex. So that's like when you should intervene. Hopefully I gave you some good insight there on the approach, how you might do that, when you might do that, and like everybody that's watching this video will be at a different stage of that particular cycle. So I had to talk about the whole thing because some parents watching this will already be well aware that their child is in a lot of pain and they are expressing it and talking about it, but they just don't know what to do. But then other parents are much earlier on in that particular cycle. Okay. So again, doing your best as a parent to not project your worry and stress and anxiety onto them about it is really important. Okay. Now, a lot of you watching this won't really know what that means or what I just said means, but essentially it's about taking responsibility for one's own emotions. If you're panicking and worried about your child's tic, the first thing you want to do is start exploring your own worry and panic, because They don't want you to be worried and panicking about their tic. Right? If anything, you're just going to bring more emotional turmoil into that space in the field, in the home, where your child is already struggling with their mental health. So the first thing that you want to be doing is learning how to deal with your own emotions as a parent. And again, we have, in the MTM family method, I have specific videos just for parents to move through in support of your child, right? So there's some videos just for parents, some videos for you all to watch together. And that's important because you're going on a journey, because they're your little boy or girl. It's going to affect you emotionally if you're watching them suffer. And so dealing with your part of it is part of the healing process for them too. You're not separate. You never were separate. If it's a mom watching this, like they came through you like a leaf comes out of a tree. They're a part of you. So of course you're going to feel it. And taking responsibility for your reaction to their suffering now is a part of your journey in supporting them to heal too. Okay? We don't help each other get better in this life or in this world or in our society in isolation. We do it in community. That's what community is all about. We come together to support each other. Yeah. So it's not just about fixing them. It's about improving the well-being of them and the environment they're in, which is what the MTM family method is about. Yeah, it's about getting them to move through these practices, and of course, but it's also, okay, what's my role here as mom or dad? Okay. So yeah, so it's about inspiring them and motivating them and staying in your light and your trust and your belief that these things can change and that the best will happen in the end. And that comes through us, isn't it? Through the heart. Not through necessarily doing, but through our hearts. And so not to get too mystical or poetic, because when we are in states of worry or stress, like you might be watching this video right now, if you're thinking about your child, because we sometimes get a bit too like laser focused and our head takes over when we're stressed. But really, what your child wants is for you to worry less, stress less. Yes, you might still move forward in supporting them with guidance programs or healing opportunities. But it doesn't come from a place of we must, I'm so stressed, I've got to help them. It doesn't come from that place. There's a spaciousness behind that which the support can arrive to them from. So what different treatment options are there? So we've talked briefly about the pharmaceutical options. There isn't really anything specifically for tics or Tourette's. There are some medications that are also used for anxiety and also tics, and but ultimately it's just about more like numbing life, right? There's so much energy going on, just numb us and then we don't tic. Right? But I don't think any parent wants to really do that for their child. So the next option is something called HRT, or habit reversal therapy, which is which, when offered by an expert, offers the child a way to start noticing and seeing the tic, and then instead of doing one particular tic, we try to do a different tic, like moving the attention to somewhere else in the body. Now, this to some extent can work if there's an awareness and like there's a discipline and practice in themselves. I never found it worked, and I've heard so many stories of parents where it doesn't really do anything or work. Because you have to kind of be in the moment with the tic in order to start changing the habit. But it's happening all the time for a lot of kids, like to change that habit when the tic is overwhelming them all the time. It's not an approach that works for most people, kids and adults alike. So that's HRT. We then have something called CBIT, which is like half HRT, similar to HRT, but also has a little bit of like breath work and like relaxation tools in there as well. And so that's a step in the right direction from my experience of healing tics, because we are learning to get more now connected to the body and relaxing the nervous system, which is important. But again, there can be frustration in trying to like figure out how to stop the tic, and it's still the mind trying to do the thing, and like that's not the right approach from my perspective. We have to create a lot more space before trying to fix anything. To me, just moving the tic to a different part of the body isn't actually healing the tic. It's just moving the energy somewhere else. And so it will just happen somewhere else in the end. What we really want to get to is the root of why the energy is getting stuck in the first place. And that's what we do with the MTM family method. We begin the process by learning how to regulate the nervous system by activating the parasympathetic state through a range of different movement, breathing, and sounding practices. And we teach a range of them in order to create a playfulness and like this, a playfulness with the approach that you then weave into your everyday life together as a family, all right? And we make it playful and silly and light-hearted as opposed to something that needs to be done because it needs to be fixed. So that's kind of the first pillar of the MTM family method, learning to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which then goes about telling the rest of the body to start relaxing, calming, slowing down, finding peace. So activation of parasympathetic state. Number one, most kids and most kids' parents have been living in a perpetual state of sympathetic activation, which is the stress and adrenaline activation system, telling the rest of the body to live like this perpetually. And our kids are acting like this, living like this, and they don't even know what it's like to really be connected, slowing down in their body, like really safe and secure. We don't have a world which makes it easy for us to be like that as much or as often as what is most optimal for the well-being of a child. So that's the first pillar of the MTM family method. The second pillar is the integration of some really old mammalian, reptilian movements of our body. So these are called the primitive reflexes, which are kind of stored movements in the nervous system or the base of the brain when a baby's first being, developing in the womb. And these are basic movements that aren't learned. They are kind of stored and part of the initial operating system, the circuitry of a human being. And these movements at the base of the brain stem, the oldest part of the motor cortex, these movements, if they're not kind of integrated well into the higher order functions of the motor cortex, the newer areas of the motor cortex that's developed later on, there can be kind of blocks in some of the biggest kind of channels moving from the nervous system through the brain and through the nervous system, motor cortex into the brain. And so what we do with the primitive reflexes is we move in ways which are basically old, crawling, rolling, grabbing, and strengthening some of the oldest muscle groups. Basically, we're talking about activating some of the oldest parts of the brain through movement and breath. That is it. And by activating some of the oldest parts of the brain through movement and breath, we strengthen those parts because the brain is very plastic. It's always changing, right? It's always changing and being created based on the stimuli of the world around us. Okay. And so if you've got a child that's been sitting in front of their computer for years and years and years, their brain has been developed for like a different world. So doing a little bit of movement and connecting to the body is what brings us back into harmony and activates the right parts of the brain so that the stuck energy moving between the nervous system and the brain isn't creating spikes of urges and tics anymore. It's moving more seamlessly because we've strengthened that oldest part of the motor cortex. And so that's the second pillar of the MTM family method. All this is backed by peer-reviewed science. It's just not being disseminated in the world well enough yet. And I found a way through my condition through these tools, and this is what I share online now. So we've got activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is about telling the whole body to go, oh, I'm safe, I can relax, it's okay. That's great. Once we're there, we're then like, okay, we need to regularly do some certain movements in order to stimulate parts of the brain, in order to improve the circuitry between the brain and the nervous system, so the motor cortex is strengthened and less jittery. And then the third pillar of the MTM family method is the awareness of the body. Like most kids today spend hours on their screens and looking at computers. And so they've created all this cerebral network stuff focused on all the computery things and the colors and the activation and the intensity of the stuff going on. But hold on, we need to also become aware and connected and notice and sense the body more. What does it mean to feel gravity, to notice the senses without running away from them, to feel emotions without tightening up or getting scared or even talking about them, but just being with them? So then there's an approach of learning to be somatically connected, aware of the physical body, which we introduce your child to, which like opens up a whole field of awareness and living in life, as opposed to just the thinking mind, but more connected to the, it's okay to be aware of the body too. A body that's been ticking is a body that has got frightened. It's like, look at me, help me, look at me, help me, look at me, help me. It's trying to get your attention, all right? Or the body's trying to get your child's attention, right, through the movements. That their body is moving, but they're still distracted by the world. Oh, hold on, my body's moving. Oh, my body's moving. Oh, what's going on with my body? Oh, I can be with my body. I can focus on my body. So we reorientate direction of awareness through exercises and practices in the MTM family method too. Okay, so that's a blast of a download for you. I just shared a lot of information in a very short period of time, just 40 minutes. So let that digest. If you want to learn more about the MTM family method, there's a button below this video, and you can look through the program just to read more about what's inside, how it might be able to help you and your family. There's a trial in the program, so you can get started without paying anything up front for the first 7 days. You can get a feel for the program and the videos to get a sense of how I teach, whether your child is sort of connecting with the way that I'm sharing. In the program, I speak a little bit much slower than how I'm speaking in this video. This is a quick fire Q&A for just parents. In the program videos, everything's much slower. So there's spaciousness to drop in and really feel and heal. And also at the bottom of the page, if you are curious about moving forward, you can book a consultation with me too. So if you're curious to learn more about how the MTM family method might help your family, then go ahead and book a consultation call as well. I have a limited number like every week, every month. So take a look, and maybe I can be of support in helping you. This isn't necessarily a phone call to go about giving you free advice so you can go and fix things. It's a phone call for you to feel into whether the MTM Family Method program is the right program for you and your family. And you might be able to get a sense of that by just looking at the page by clicking on the button below this video as well. Okay, but if you're curious, reach out. You can also email me as well. You have my email address because I've sent it in order for you to access this video. So you can hit reply on that as well. This work is very close to my heart, right? Because I lived for 20 years with a ticking body here, and down my arm and my neck and my shoulder and this whole area. And so my journey's been very deep, profound, long, and I don't wish kids to live for decades with this condition when I know it can be healed when they're younger. And so my encouragement for you with love and wisdom and my own experiences, find a way to openly begin loving discussion about what's going on here for them, with them, not from a place of they need to change or need to fix anything, but from a place of loving encouragement to improve their health and well-being, right? And if they also see you doing that and wanting to get better with your health and well-being, they will understand that also they want to get better at their health and well-being, because kids are just mini me's, right? If you're acting on improving your well-being, they will see that's a beautiful thing to do too. It's not just about sorting them out, all right? So keep bringing love into the space. I know it's difficult watching a child experience a ticking body. I know that's difficult because I've had hundreds of conversations with parents over the last 6 years. And although I am not a parent myself, I do understand the sensitivity needed to approach this topic and this condition, because it's a deep one. And that's why I created the program that I created, the MTM Family Method, because it's the program I wish my parents had when I was a kid. So click on the button below and take a look, and you can go ahead and sign up straight away if it is of interest to you. If not, you can reach out. Otherwise, drop me an email, and possibly speak to you soon or see you inside the program. Wishing you a beautiful day. Okay, bye-bye.